Okay, so let's just start with just a gentle figure of 8. So really just moving side to side, but with a slight twist, slight turn. And then you'll get a figure of 8. So just feel how the figure of 8, you know, when you go round a figure of 8 a certain way, so if I'm going around the figure of 8 like this, it tends to pull the sides in and push the middle bit backwards. Yeah. And so as we figure of 8 around the hips in our normal way, it tends to push the sacrum backwards, which we want. We want that feeling. But we also want a general feeling that I'm being driven forwards. Yeah. So the sacrum stays between the hips. It doesn't push back because it's being driven forwards. So the figure of 8 will make it go back, but the hand behind me that's bringing me forwards will actually push it. So there's always 2 actions. There's always 2 things in balance. And I just need the mind that will actually contain those 2 things. So I need my mind, the particular mind, which is doing this rotation around the hips. And I also need the general mind that is seeing me in context. Yeah, so there's 2 tendencies. One, a tendency to become engrossed in what you're doing. And then another tendency to reach outside of that and attend to what's beyond you. It's a bit like when you're driving, you know. After I'd been driving for 5 years here, you had to go on an advanced driving course. And one of the things he said was that 90% of accidents can be prevented by making sure that you're looking much further down the road than you immediately need to be looking. So just being awake to what's beyond you, awake to the future. So when we become self-engrossed, which doesn't necessarily, it's not a bad thing. You're just, you know, you're really with what you're doing, then you tend to get into this circuit. Yeah. So the heart will tend to drop into the activity. And when you're attending to what's beyond, you tend to be with this circuit. Yeah. So we need both. We need an awareness that we're actually embedded in both processes. And when we're doing a practice like meditation or Tai Chi, then we tend to lose the beyond. Yeah? It tends to become too self-engrossed. And what that will do is hurt the spirit, because the spirit always wants to reach out. And it's healthy for it too. Now let's just figure out where we used to. So it's figures of eights on the vertical plane. So just feel them in the spine. It's like you've got the flow up the spine and the flow down the spine. That's it. So just feel, especially the up, there's almost like a ripple that's going up the spine. So we want the spine to not simply support, but to transmit energy. So energy can ripple up the spine and it can ripple down. And we just want to feel what needs to happen in the heart to make that pathway clear, especially the pathway upwards. The heart has to become big and it has to really lift. So we want to sort of feel like each vertebra. So we want a uniformity within the spine so that energy can jump from one vertebra to the next with ease. Okay, great. And now let's just quickly stand for a sec. Remember, once I found a website with very old photographs of soldiers during the American Civil War, and they'd obviously posed, because they had long exposure times there. But I was really struck by just how beautiful their postures were. They were really standing up with these enormous puffed up chests. There's a sense that their heart was looking upwards rather than forwards. Yeah. And just, you could really feel the strength in the lower back that was supporting that thrust up through the body of the spirit. So you should feel like you want to burst into song. Yeah. You just want to bellow a hymn. Yeah. At school, I used to hate morning assembly, because it was all to do with praying and singing to God. And I came from a family of ignorant atheists, depressed people, basically. And but I was always amazed by just how much better I felt once I'd sung my heart out. So this feeling that you're just giving from here, and then this naturally gets under that. It just has to. Yeah. So in a sense, you've only got good posture when you're letting your energy out. Yeah. So riding horse, there has to be a sense of, like a bunch of flowers that's just sprouting outwards and upwards. Yeah. Okay, so let's just try encouraging that. So just lifting up and bringing it into the heart. So let's just try this a few times, down to the Dan Chen. You can think of the heart as being like an outlet for the energy of the Dan Chen. So here I'm just reaching out, really strengthening the spine to support that reach, bringing it down into the heart and then just pooling it in the Dan Chen. And then again. Yeah, so in order to stack yourself down your spine, so in other words, in order to sink properly through your structure rather than just with your energy, the heart has to lift. So you want to feel that as I lift this up, I can just settle down my spine that much better. You feel it best when you've done squats, with a bar on your behind your neck. Because when you come up from squatting down, you really have to arch your back, otherwise you'll fall forwards. Yeah. And now let's bring it up. So just really feel the spine. Where is there a weakness? Where is there an inconsistency in the spine? And can I just iron that out? Can I just press that vertebra in so that it's not blocking the flow of energy? So here you're the snake emerging from the old skin. You're wriggling out of yourself, fresh and gleaming. So my skin is wriggling down myself, and my spirit is wriggling up out of myself. Yeah, so those sword swallowers, those circus performers that can swallow a sword. They can get such a straight channel, they can just blow a sword through their mouth and down their gullet. So it's a bit like that. It's like you need to really sort of straighten this channel outwards, like you could scream to the heavens. Yeah. And one more. So one. So it really goes down into the sacrum here. So even though it stops at the heart, it's still going down. And then it erupts through from the legs. It's like the strength of the legs pressing down. Fires the energy up and out. Okay, and then just back into riding horse. Again, just being very aware of the position of your sacrum. You want it underneath. It's supporting, it's underpinning. So your sacrum is really uprooting your spirit. It's thrusting your spirit up from these buoyant legs and this sacrum that's really in position. So it's like the courage that you would need to sort of go into battle. When, no thought of self-preservation. So fear doesn't hold you back. It's what John called enheartenment. Yeah. So it's like the opposite of being disheartened. If you're disheartened, your heart gets heavy with second thoughts. Here it's just, whoa. Okay. And now let's just jogging on the spot, but just very sort of loosely. So this sort of, it's a bit like you're just sort of loosening the stiffness of being double weighted, of being stuck in the middle. And just slowly, just letting that stiffness crumble and fall away. And just really, just feel the balls of the feet. It's almost like you're trying not to put the heel down too much. You're trying to stay on the toes. So it's really soft and just loosening. It's getting looser and looser. Because what stops the heart from lifting is just habit, old habits, old fears. Because the heart should really be really sort of light. It should want to go up. I just feel that as soon as you start thinking to yourself, basically you've sort of cohered into a singular, into a oneness, yeah? And that's what we're trying to just dissolve. The oneness is just the fact that I am just me, I'm just my body. And I want the mind to just slip and so I don't need to cohere into an ego because I have a body. Yeah, so ego is always sort of serious, yeah, serious and solemn, glum, whereas spirit is eminently playful. Yeah, so here, ooh. Yeah, and this should be, so when you go for a walk, that should be what you're practicing. Yeah, you're practicing playful spirit. Just allowing the two sides of the body because the two sides of the body, they want to sort of be like the yin and the yang, constantly shifting. And just feel the spine. We need to become really intimate with our own spine so that we can feel where the block is. Yeah. There's a lot of people, it's sort of mid-spine, like where the bra would fasten behind you whenever you wear a bra. For me, it's a bit lower, it's sort of here. So the heavy heart will push a vertebra or two back, and your spine will have a slight kink in it. So the 99-year-old lady that I work with, what's remarkable about her is that her spine is just clear. She doesn't have that. It means that she's really obnoxious and difficult. But John, he'd always say that's a good thing. Is that me that's gone, or you guys? You know, I think my internet's a bit feeble today. Okay, so let's just bring it back. So again, just feeling the sacrum that is so often behind so that I can attend to me. When it's forwards, you just give. You're in giving mode. Giving in a general way, giving of your spirit and your energy. Okay, and now try not to move the sacrum too much. So now let's just tip us slightly. So the sacrum, it should have like a real feeling of inertia, almost like it can't move too much. Yeah. Yeah, so just full and empty, but in a really sort of analytical way. You're really feeling this filling and feeling this emptying. So it's my filling is loading the spring, and then the spring sort of returns me. Yeah. So I sink down, and very gradually I get thrown back. Yeah, so you just have to really work hard to keep mind continuous at that point of changing direction. Because that's the important place. It's almost like there's like an inner explosion that just in almost like real slow motion, it just expands and takes me out. And I just want to really stretch that point. So I seem to be still, but it's just because my energy is having to somehow overcome my inertia. You just have to wait until the upward is strong enough to overpower the downward. So what we would normally do is weaken the downward with our mind. You know, you'd normally say, okay, I'll come up. Yeah, that's what we're trying. Not the mind is just observing. It's observing a natural process. It's not controlling. So I'm sinking into the leg is returning energy. And then there comes a point where that energy is stronger than the sinking. And that's when my body can start moving back, but it will move back so slowly to start with. Just feel the down and the up in the eyes. Yeah. So it's like the down will tend to make you want to almost close your eyes. So the eyes will hood with your sinking, but the eyebrows will rise with the energy that comes up. Wee. So it just becomes the figure of 8 exercise. It always does, all these things. All full and empty exercises that are repetitive will become the figure of 8 exercise. Okay. And now just concentrating now on the empty leg. So I fill this leg and this leg empties. And I really want to feel it just separating here and reaching out. The emptiness wants to go beyond. Yeah? So the empty side is where the spirit and the energy is tending to express. And that will just expand outward. And there will come a point where it starts to sort of condense. It starts to grip and draw me across. Yeah. So now I'm being drawn by my empty side. So here something goes out, it's releasing, and it will draw me back. I want to feel the stretch, ooh, the hip really opens. And because my foot I don't let my foot come off the ground, then it will draw me back. So just feel that. So, and what? That's it. So to me, it sort of feels like, you know, when you go over a hill in a car and you sort of, your tummy comes up into your mouth. It's a bit like that here. As this stretches, there's like a moment of almost suspension before you're drawn back. So here it's like going over a hill. And then when we're pushing from the leg, it's like going up from a valley, yeah? Which is quite a different feeling. So here, this is really, and then this stretches and ooh. And you just have to be sort of disciplined with your weight. So always the body's the last thing to move, remember. So this opens up and it draws me across. Yeah, so this one's much more, if you like, of the heart, you know, which is why it's, for us, it's so important. So it's enjoyable. So when you see someone in the zone, like a sportsman, you can just tell they're just enjoying every second of it. Yeah. It's almost like a sensual experience. So something comes out of me and it gathers, and it's that gathering, that tendency to fall over the other side that draws you out of the full leg. Okay. And now let's just bring it back to base. So again, feel it when you're spending that moment attending to everything of to your own posture. This tends to be back. And then when you bring that forwards a little bit, suddenly this becomes like this fountain. Yeah, so what is it that makes that process stop? It's you coming back to self. That's what, you know, in that quote, Nietzsche called cowardice. So cowardice is just coming back to self. Courage is of the heart. I mean, courage, core is just heart. So it's enheartenment. We're just giving from the heart. Yeah, so as soon as you get this in the right position, it becomes heart work. You're working the heart. I always think of Moshe, Moses. Community, you know, they say in Judaism, they say, you know, Moses was the last person whom God spoke to personally. Yeah. So he's really important. But it's like he just had a root and a heart big enough to reach. Yeah? He could bellow and God would hear, and then God would speak back. Yeah. So with our weak spirits and our entanglement with the human universe, which is like a real diminishment, we can't reach with our hearts anymore. Yeah? So there's no gods. Yeah. So we can't talk to the gods and they can't get through us. So this sense that you're just, wow, you know, like a red Indian sitting on his horse, just opening his heart to the Great Spirit. So God-fearing. I love that term because it's terribly unfashionable. But you know, like in the Kabbalah, fear and love are the two sides of the coin. Yeah, so the opposite of love is not hate, it's fear. Yeah, but they're both important. Yeah. If you fear God, then he will love you. Yeah. Okay, and now let's just try and sort of maintain a little bit of that, but just turn with it. And again, just feel it's the position of the sacrum, that's all important. If you can get that sort of underneath the heart, then your heart will burgeon, your heart will expand and open up. And it's difficult because we're so socially accustomed to having our sacrum behind our heart. It's like Lawrence said, you know, as creatures, we haven't even started heart work yet. Yeah. It's a whole realm awaiting exploration. But it takes such courage, like the ability to really live outside the social norm, because everything that's socially acceptable will bring your heart down. Yeah, so when you strike the sacrum with the fist behind, just think of it as just a bit like a hammer that's just knocking the sacrum forwards a little bit. So knocking the gate of life. The sacrum, or the Min Meng, is the gate of life. It's the most important point on the body. So each time I knock at my sacrum, there's a burst in the heart. It's like it just bangs a bit of energy up into the chest. It's like clapping someone on the back with a slap, you know, slapping their back. Like they do in ballet, you know, the teacher will slap the back of the dancer, and that will bring this shock of energy into their upper heart. And then they'll be able to settle into their legs and their sacrum better. Yeah, so any words that come are simply words of praise, yeah? Like prayers of adoration. You're just expressing your wonderment. Yeah? Okay, let's just bring it back. That's it, lovely. Yeah, so this is a bit like a big searchlight, but it's pointing upwards. Yeah. Okay, and now let's just try exercising the spine a bit. So the hands on the waist, if you can remember where that is. And now just rotating, it's just working the spine, trying to get the bend all the way through, but especially low down. Just feeling the weight slowly shifting over the feet, trying to keep the sacrum in the middle, but obviously your weight will shift as your head tips over. And just try and get the movement to be really even. So there are places where it will want to go quickly and places where it will slow down. So we're just trying to get an even motion, which means really attending with the mind, the movement. It's almost like the mind sort of clears a pathway. The mind is always slightly ahead, clearing a path with its machete. And then the body can relatively easily move through. And then just change direction. Yeah. So and then just back to the top. And now just the head. So just rolling the head. So really getting into the neck now. The neck tends to be reluctant. You know, we tend, a lot of our control is in the neck and the jaw. So really sort of loosening both of them. And then just changing direction. So it should almost feel like you're going to topple a bit. Because when you move the head freely, you tend to get a bit dizzy. And that's a good thing, because the way you'll stop getting dizzy is by practicing. Okay, then just bring it back to the top. And now let's just try the eyes. So just keeping the head relatively still and just making a big circle with the eyes. So you're looking across your ceiling, down the wall, along the floor. And again, this is where even movement is difficult, because the eyes really want to flit. They want to leap and jump. And here we're just trying, they're almost heavy. It's like a real labor to actually move the eyes around this circle. So they can't jump because the movement has inertia, you know, it has momentum. Ooh. Yeah, so you have to exercise control of them, so holding them back all the time because they're wanting to whiz around. And feeling it coming from the legs. So let's change direction. So even though it's only the eyes, it's still coming from the legs. You should still feel like the weight distribution changing a little bit over the feet, even though your head's not really moving. Ooh. So everything has a physical component and everything has a mental component. And we want the bridge between those two to be the energy. Whoa. Okay. And now let's try the difficult one really, which is just circling the coccyx. Yeah, so just working, just trying to get the, imagine your tail dangling down and you're just making a circle around yourself. You know, so you're just rolling the hips. Ooh. So it's good doing the eyes before this one, because when you do the eyes one, it tends to get into the sacrum and the coccyx. You know, so when you're working the eyes, you can feel it affecting these nether regions. So I'm going forwards, and I'm just. And then just change direction. Ooh. That's it. Yeah, so just feel the root. The root will tend to make the movement difficult, because it will demand that you move from the root rather than independently of the root. So it's like the figure of 8 going around the hips, but it's just more difficult because it's a circle going round this way and then you're coming back this way. Okay. And now let's try just both together, if you like. So the spine, and so that when I go this way with my head, the tail is coming here. So the tail is coming this way. Yeah. And then as my head comes over like that, my tail is coming under. Yeah. So I just want to feel my spine really centered here and the bottom part mirroring the top part. And it's difficult, which means if you practice it, you'll get better at it. And then the other way. Yeah. So when something seems difficult, what it normally means is that you haven't found the right passion with which to do it. Yeah. So you haven't quite let yourself go into it. Because it should be natural. Everything we do should be natural. They should be easy. They should happen by themselves, but only when you're possessed by the right spirit. One more. And then, hello. Okay, so again, just getting this underneath. You should have called them yin and yang. Okay, so let's just try going backwards and forwards. So full and empty. Yeah, so what makes full and empty difficult is that we tend to choose one over the other. I'm either, with the full. We're normally with the full. So I'm thinking, okay, this leg has to fill, and I forget this one. And then I think, okay, this leg has to fill, and I forget this one. So the secret of full and empty is really just having your mind on both. Yeah? And that just requires you to really have this sacrum stable in the middle. You're very much in the middle. You're not just with the full leg. So as I come into this leg, this side is really opening out into the room and filling with energy. This side is really shrinking and just almost like I'm wrapping around my bones, yeah, in my leg. So here everything is expanding out as I condense into this side. So just really feeling that. And just allowing your sacrum to just sort of dangle in the middle. Yeah, so you can't, when you come into the front foot, you can't get much more than half there. So again, you remember 70% is not anymore. Here you can get most of the weight in this leg, yeah? So as you fill the leg, you're going down it, but the energy that you're giving out into the other side of the body is coming up from it. Yeah? And it'd be the same if you were kicking. It's most obvious when you kick, because if you kick, you have to kick with the empty leg from the full leg. So the energy for the kick comes from the full leg. Yeah? So here I'm really feeling this side of my body getting bigger. So I just need a mind that's like the circle of the yin yang. Yeah? A mind that can contain these two principles. That's it. And just feel how, in order to really allow the empty side to expand, you need to turn away from it. Yeah, so whatever you look at is diminished. This is why it's so difficult to look at something with real love, with real sort of encouragement, real enheartenment, yeah? Because our eyes are so used to looking at something and contracting it in order to give it a name, yeah? In order to claim it as an observation. So here is like, ah. And this is something, that's something that you can practice as you walk down the street. Every time you look at something, you encourage it. You give it permission to come into itself, to express itself. Especially living things, like cats. And here, there's so many stray cats. And now let's just try a little bit on the other leg, and then we'll finish. So I'm sinking into this leg, but this is really opening out from my sacrum. And all I have to do is keep the balance. And I know it's balanced when my sacrum is just hanging freely. So if I feel that my sacrum has drifted too much this side, then I know it's because I'm not attending to the other side enough. So one side yielding, the other side attacking. One side receiving, the other side giving. So there's a sense of really being sandwiched between full and empty, between the earth and the heavens. Yeah. So here, this is the earthly, and this is the light heavenly. And I just have to maintain my equilibrium in the middle. And then energy can flow from one to the other. Okay. And now let's just bring it back to riding horse for a sec. Again, just letting this find its right position. Yeah, so it's the position of the sacrum that will always, if you don't have it in the right place, the quality of the work that you do will be less. And then let's just bring it back. And now just feel the breathing. So just bring it back to some meditative space. So just the breath coming in, the breath going out. So the mind is with two things. It's with you as the breathing machine, and it's also with the air that's coming in and the air that's going out. So you're sensitive to how the world is affecting you, but you're also sensitive to how you are impacting the world. It's always two ways. Okay. Very good. Okay, let's finish.